Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Arena Craft Podcast, a show dedicated exclusively to Magic the Gathering Arena. My name is Arjuna. I'm one of your hosts. We are lucky today to actually have three of us on the line here. So first of all, we are joined by regular host Covert Go Blue. How are you doing today, CGB?
I am doing great. How are you doing? And how is everyone doing? I'll answer for him. You're doing great. It's great. Everything's great.
Everything's great today. Don't worry about it. We got it covered. So for our special guest today, I'm really excited to introduce this person, someone who I'm sure you probably already know, just like a hot content creator who's really been blowing up this year, super talented player, member of Fade to Karma, and just all around good guy. It is DanyTLaw. How are you doing today, Danny?
I'm doing really great. Thanks for being here. And yeah, you definitely made me blush right there. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Looking forward to have a good time here.
That's the goal. You know, I think I've developed a reputation on this podcast for just like trying to push my guests' comfort level as far as how much I can compliment them. So you're in good company here. So we have a little bit of grab bag of things to talk about today. We're going to just chat a little bit with Danny about his experience of playing on Arena and kind of like his content creation story. And we're also probably going to talk a little bit about Historic and Jumpstart because that's just really, really present at the moment in the meta game. And it's also, you know, I mean, we could talk about Standard, but I just feel like a lot of Standard feels relatively solidified. And so anyway, it just seems like a really good time to be looking at another format, which is seeing a lot of shift right now, and especially in preparation for the upcoming Open and you know, the Invitational and stuff like that. So that's going to be the shape of the show. So I wanted to start the way I have often started with my guests in the past, which is just to ask you, Danny, about a brief history with you and the game Magic as a whole and how you came to start focusing on playing Arena.
Okay, yeah. Well, it started all with Magic when I was, I would say, 11 or 12 years old, which is 17 years ago, I guess, or 18 years. And I was just this kid going to the local store, seeing this game, and everyone was playing it. Then I started to play it as well. Fell in love with it with my friends, which is really important, right? If all around you play it, then you kind of get into it. And really enjoyed it. Went to the local game store every day, played there every day, until to the point where I went to the Nationals here with 12 years old. And I was a bit intimidated because everyone was so tall. I was just a little kid with my aggro deck. That's what you play when you're 12 at a big tournament, right? And yeah, I remember I played Ravage Affinity back in the day in Mirrodin, I think it was. And that was basically my first tournament with 12 or 13. And after that, I just played casually. School, soccer, like all those things just happened. And just now and then I played a little bit, maybe with like 18 and 19, then maybe with like 25 again a little bit. And then I went to Japan in 2018, and I lived like maybe, let's say, 5 minutes away from the shop called Hareruya, which is a huge company in Japan. And I just lived around the corner, and I was like, what is this? I went inside, everyone was playing Magic. I was like, wow, okay, that looks cool. And then I suddenly started to go there every single day again. They have tournaments every day. I played there every day, literally every day. Met many people, had a lot of fun. And at the same time, last year, I think that was last year, I tried to stream from Japan. But with my time schedule and everything, I was not 100% committed. I just did it for fun. And so that was my first streaming experience, like in general. And definitely different people back then. I mean, CGB was around for sure for longer, but many I see now streaming were not there yet. But then I stopped again. and focused on my work and my life there, and just played paper. That's the origin story until this year.
Okay. So that's fantastic. I didn't know that you had the opportunity to play within the hallowed halls of Haruya itself. That's really cool. So how did you go from those humble beginnings to becoming someone that I consider to be like a really up and coming and growing streamer on Twitch?
I remember it started actually on New Year. I mean, this New Year I was like, okay, guys, I'm gonna try this again. I know I can play this game Magic, but I just need to dedicate everything on it. So in January, I did inform myself about everything, stream setups, like meta, everything. And just really, it's like a lot of teach myself first before I just stream, like I did before. I try to see what's around, what people do, and really just try to go into the community. And I did not watch a lot. I mean, I watched CGB. I think I Patreoned you before I streamed, or maybe just around the same time. Yeah, I think before I streamed,
I think
Patreon.
So.
Yeah. So I just know some people, right? And then that's like my reference. And I just went into it. January, I went into it, and it's. I mean. It is really crazy still thinking about like everything, because in January I had like 5 to 10 viewers, right? In February, I think that's when you rated me once, and I had suddenly 100. I was calling my friend, dude, CGB rated me, and I have like 100 viewers. It's legit crazy. And then 5 days or 6 days later, I was like number 2 in the ladder with this chess guy list I had back then. And suddenly, like, people came to my channel, and I really realized that maybe my audience could be high-level Mythic. And there are some people who stream that as well, right? But there are many just fun streamers. But I think I found my niche there while still doing some fun decks as well. And yeah, then Crookies came in my chat in February as well, and just randomly said, "You're gonna be the second biggest streamer ever." I was like, "What?" First, I saw Crookies there. I was like, "What the hell? What's going on?" And then, yeah, he wrote me. He came every day to my chat, like after he streamed, like every day. I think until now, every time I stream, he's there. I just know he will be there. I don't know when he sleeps or how he sleeps, but I know when I stream, he will be there, and we write. And that's like, I would say, a lot of luck, right? That he liked me, and we kind of similar as well, like age-wise, Europe, and what we did in our lives. And I guess that really helped me to get reach, even though I never even asked for it. And I would say that's the biggest step in February, March, and then the rest was just happened. Yeah.
Excellent. So you heard it here first, people. All you need to do to get noticed on Twitch is just become friends with, the legendary CGB, become friends with the legendary Stephen Croak, and all will flow. But in all seriousness, I mean, you're an excellent player of the game, and you are an excellent streamer. So I think, that was something that these more experienced streamers could see in you. So, I appreciate your modesty. And for anyone listening to this who doesn't watch DanyTLaw, definitely just go check out his stream, DanyTLaw, on Twitch, and watch him work. You're very good at what you do, and I think that's a really cool. It's a really good mix to do with your content, where you're competitive and you're trying for high mythic, but you're also throwing in some curveballs and doing some fun stuff. Like when you were describing that, I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of like what Crokies does. And and it's a good combo, right? Because you get to learn high level magic, which who doesn't like watching that? And then you also get to have fun while you're doing it.
I'd like to jump in, because I think obviously part of the joke is it's like, oh, you get to know CGB and you get to know Crokies and you get to know these other players, and you too can succeed at streaming. And I think there's definitely more to it, because I want to dive into that, because without question, I get a lot of people just asking me constantly, like, raid my stuff, shout out my stuff. because they think that that's the key to succeeding. And I mean, just we need to put a little bit of perspective on that. Do you have like some things that you think really made you successful that mattered? Because now you stream for hundreds of people and you started streaming in January. That's not normal. I streamed for about 20 people for a year. I streamed for less than 100 people for 2.5 years. So do you have other things that you'd attribute to? Because it's easy to say it's because of some larger streamers, but I have some opinions that it's much more than that. But I'll let you go first.
Okay, I'm not good talking about myself like this, but I think what definitely helped me was being number 2 in February for like 2 weeks, being number 2 in March for 2 weeks with like the insane win rate, and then in April I was number 3, and then in May I was number 11. Like, I mean, I definitely have always a consistent high win rate, and that was I was trying to. And I think so from the competitive Magic side, if you're a good player and like you can play good on a consistent level, right? That's definitely something that attracts people in general. Because I get a lot of people asking me, would you play this? Would you do that? And we're talking about here not just about the normal players. I get pro players ask me, hey, would you play this? Or do you think this is a good card, right? And I was completely shocked. I mean, there are at least 5 different pros who ask me those kind of things. And it's like, I got this name DanyTLaw. Like people think I just collected data for everything and then I give them this. But back to the streaming. It's a lot of work. I think you have to put in a lot of hours. You have to be good at the game. I think in general, if you're not a super entertaining person, because I think myself, for example, I'm normal entertaining, like just a normal dude, right? With cracking one joke there and there, but I'm just good or better than average at the game, right? So that's definitely something.
You identified your niche. That was the thing that stood out to me. It took you a few months. Like when I rated you, I don't know how many people who follow me are actually interested in competitive Magic, but it obviously made a big deal that I could tell them before we rated, not here is another human, watch them play Magic. It's here's somebody who specializes in high level Magic. Here's somebody who is consistently doing well on the ladder. Here's somebody who is going to play best of 3 because I don't do that very much. Like, if you want to get good at this, watch this guy, you know? So I knew what brand I was pitching to my raters before we even rated. And you got really into it. You know what I mean? You embraced it. And that's a big deal. Now, I also want to say that if you're a content creator out there listening, you don't have to be high mythic to have somebody take you seriously. You can be entertaining. You can have a specific deck style that you play. There's a million ways to build fans, but you leaned into it. Do you feel pressured to do you feel pressured to be in a high place on the ladder to maintain your audience at this point? Or do you feel like your fans will follow you, whatever you want to play with? Because I heard you talking on your podcast, another podcast, Pro Play Podcast. You were saying that you've been trying out a number of other decks because you know you could pick up Teamer Rec and be back in the top 10 if you wanted to. And you're trying to do some other stuff. Do you feel like you're missing out on anything by not doing that? Do you feel like you're letting your fans down?
That's a really good question, actually. I remember, I think last month, I just want to show the people that you can just pick up the best deck and go up. Because they were asking me, why are you not just, I'm testing decks, for maybe there's a new deck, like there was with Luca or something, right? I mean, there's always something to be found. And then I saw there's 2 type of people who watch me. I mean, nowadays after a half year, they watch me because of me. But I think there's still a lot of people who want me to build decks, because I think that was also one of my specialities. Oh my God, the English word, but you know what I mean.
You're a deck.
Build a certain deck.
Yeah, you've been on Deck Doctor with me. You can build decks. I think we have this in common.
Yeah, for example, in February, what got me on the radar for Jason or Otto, even Ray Sato, Japanese professional player, was me building a Planeswalker deck in February that was number 2, right? And then I put my own spin on Reclamation, and I was number 2. I played cards no one played because I just thought it's the best card, and then people mostly like me for my deck building, I think, and then for the high mythic ladder. But just for my fans, I think last month I did a 1-day climb to number 12, and I was like number 900 in 1 day. And I just wanted to show I'm still the same guy. I just try to do some different things here, and people are still there, and I'm really glad they watch me now for me playing different decks and do more of this than just have this pressure to be always in the top 10, right? Because I think nowadays many try to do that. Because I also get asked a lot, right? They ask me, there are also content creators that ask me, what did you do? I was like, I was in the top 10 every time. And now they try the same, right?
Yep, because they think that's the formula. But I mean, it is a formula. It gets people introduced to you. You have to keep them there. I think that you understand that pretty well.
Yeah, there's a magical thing, I think, which happens too, which is just if you're someone who's just like your combination of personality and perspective and what you offer is just not quite being covered. I feel that when I watch your stream, Danny, where I just feel like, Danny's just like, I can't get what Danny does anywhere else. There's plenty of other stuff which is good, right? There's plenty of other streamers that I like watching, but no one just quite does it the way Danny does it. And I really appreciate that you highlight that it's like, it's a craft, right? It's something that you're working on. You didn't just like roll out of bed and be like, hello world, here I am. You should watch me. But it was like you picked a thing and you worked on it. And I see that with you as well, CGB, where over time you really identified what it was that both you were excited to do and that people were excited to watch you do. It's something that people don't see from the outside, is they don't see that internal process of iteration and of saying, okay, that worked well for me. People responded to that. I'm going to do more of that. Or looking in the mirror and saying, I think I am pretty good at that. Or I think that that's something that I bring, and then just iterating and working on it. CGB, I saw you respond to a Twitter post a while back, and it was something to the effect of someone had made a post saying, entertainment streamers, in quotes, are like a dime a dozen.
Oh, you saw that one. This is as savage as I've ever been on Twitter in my life. Oh my gosh. Go ahead, finish the tweet.
But it was something to the effect of entertainment streamers are a dime a dozen, but there are a much smaller number of like truly talented Magic players streaming, and this so-and-so person should be getting more attention. I think it was a content creator program post, something like that. And I saw that your response was, did you have to dig the entertainment streamers? It's actually quite hard to be a consistently entertaining streamer.
Can I clarify really quickly?
Yeah, go for it.
This is going out to a lot of people. So this was a post by a member of Rivals, current member of Rivals, excellent player I followed for years. And it did mention, that a certain person should be in the content creator program who had gotten denied because they were an excellent competitive player. And I said that I agreed with that 100%. That person should be in the content creator program. But he said in the tweet, entertainment streamers are a dime a dozen. I told him I didn't appreciate the dig because it's actually really hard. It like you can put a lot of work into entertaining people. And for most of us, it's not natural. And I personally don't feel like I wake up with extra charisma points to throw around on the internet. I have to work at this 100%, especially when I'm not feeling it. That happens. You don't make YouTube videos for 500 days in a row and have like a backup. Well, if I'm not feeling it, I'll just, not do it. Like you find a way to do it. So I hope you don't mind me explaining that just to make sure it came out correctly. But I did feel an unnecessary dig at entertainment streamers and a need to defend them, because I think that there's definitely room for both. There's obviously room for both, right? There are entertainment streamers. There are high mythic streamers. People want all kinds of Magic content. They want all kinds of content about this game, all these formats, all these ways. So that got me riled up.
I think it's really important to highlight, and I think I didn't realize how hard streaming was until I started to do it. it's easy to watch a streamer, especially maybe a streamer who doesn't have like a massive production value on their stream, right? Like they don't have a bunch of crazy alerts going off and cool graphics and all this stuff, and think, oh, that person just turned on the cam, turned on the mic, started playing Magic, no big deal.
Yeah, Danny makes it look easy. Our guest here, you make it look easy, dude.
I don't know. I really have a simple stream, right? Because I wanted the people watch me because of me and the gameplay, right? That's why my stream is so simple, and I like those streams as well, right? Let's say Croaky stream. I watch this because of him and the game. I watch you because of you and the game, right? It's just that's what I like, and I could not change myself to. I have to be comfortable with it, right? And that's just what I do.
Absolutely. But I think there are just things like CGB was saying, you're not having a great day, you know? It's like maybe a day you'd rather just take a nap and watch TV or something. But you want to keep streaming because it's important to you and you want to grow the thing that you're doing. Or you work a regular job and then you come and do your stream. You're not always going to be like in the prime mode, so you have to dig into yourself a little bit to get that energy. Or something that I've been really learning with my streaming, and I'm not a very successful streamer, but I'm still learning that even just things like, how do I react when I lose a game? If you lose a game and you're super negative about it and you're really kind of like down on your opponent, or like you can't let it go, then people look at you and they're like, man, you're kind of being petty. Like, I'm not sure I want to keep watching. And so it's just simple things like that where I've realized that you have to maintain a certain kind of energy and you have to give your viewers overall some kind of positive experience, right? Like they want to come away from your stream being like, I feel better watching this stream than I did before whatever else I was doing. So I think that's kind of an underrated aspect of streaming, is just maintaining the energy. Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, I have something to this, and I just realized maybe that's also a niche. I don't know, but people call me the nice dude streaming. Like I don't tilt. I mean, I tilt when I see Vinota or something like this. I used to tilt, but then I packed my tilt into something fun, right? Like the robber randomness, all the random stuff. You can make it fun as well, right? Even when you tilt, and then like everyone knows already, then you give this a nickname. But for some reason, there was once a guy, I don't know the name anymore, and he was like, "Yeah, I was in a different chat, and he didn't realize I was there, and people were talking about me." And then he said, "Yeah, I don't watch Danny too much. He's too nice. He feels so unreal." I was like, okay, yeah, I can see that. I mean, I make my jokes as well and sometimes troll or whatever, right? But I can see myself being more chill and relaxed about things than other streamers. It's just the way I am. I don't care if someone spams or want to leech or whatever. I just do what you want to do, I'm really chill. And I think that maybe is also a niche. But I don't know. I think many people are nice. But I watch some streamers and they can tilt. But some in a fun way and some really serious.
And I've definitely noticed that if I'm streaming and I get on tilt and it's like a bad tilt and it's like affecting my mood, I feel like I'm just pulling the whole mood down. It's like I can notice people chat less. And so if you can make that your brand, if you can be like the ragey gamer who goes off and that's entertaining, then you're bringing something to it and that's fine. That's part of your brand. But if you're just kind of turning red in the face and getting quiet and you're still talking about that game 3 matches later because you're not over it, it's kind of like people just don't really want to stick around for that. So
I just want to say something. It's really interesting. Yeah. I mean, as you mentioned before, and I know CGB, since when are you a full-time content creator? Not like a year, half year, something there?
Yeah, about it had a few starts and stops, okay. But I would say about November officially.
Yeah, that's a pressure I really feel, especially the last 2 weeks. I used to work every day. I'm lucky that I can say when I work, but streaming 100 hours a month and then work full time just really, really is hard, right? And then to be like happy all the time, right? And then you sleep 3 hours and then you just do it again. So last week, for example, I streamed 2 days only 2 days, and usually I stream 4 to 5. And people ask me everything okay, and I felt it felt strange. I missed it, and second, I always get this feeling, ooh, maybe they don't come back, right? I'm not sure how you had this.
Oh yeah.
That's something I experienced this week. But then when I stream and I see like 200-300 or 400, I'm happy again. But it's still like this feeling, you cannot change it.
Oh yeah, and it is real. I when I traveled with Nerd Girl to Barcelona and Rome, and we were overseas for 2 weeks, and she didn't stream, and she came back. It was a rebuilding process, because when you take a good amount of time off, I took that time off too, off streaming, and I had a rebuilding process too. I think I lost about somewhere between 30 and 40% of my audience, and had to get it back. So yeah, it's a true. It's a real thing, as I'm sure it sounds like it wasn't too bad for you, but it is a thing. And I think most content creators fear it. And I think it's something that most people don't think about.
Yeah, it's like this double stress I'm not full-time, right? So it's like I work and I know, okay, it's this double stress that sometimes gets me. And on Monday this week, Tuesday, I only had like a 3-hour stream because I was really dead. And maybe people saw it, I'm not too sure, but that was it was really stressful, just this process plus the stress with work and then stress of not streaming. It's this entire thing. I just wanted to mention this. It's really strange.
Do you have a plan of trying to be full-time, or is your plan to continue to balance work with what you're doing?
I want to become full-time. That's why I also started YouTube and more channels and try to branch out, right? Podcast there, trying there, something, even if it's just reach-wise. I have one downside. That's living in Switzerland. Living in Switzerland is really expensive. We talk about really expensive. So what people think is minimum wage is here maybe triple or 4 times, right? So minimum wage is over 20, right? It's like 23, 4 something. You cannot even earn less per hour. It's not possible. So you can imagine everything is expensive as hell. And then earning a good amount on Twitch and all the channels, it's just different here than in other places. So if I want to become full-time, I basically have to live at a different place again. But right now, with the current world situation, this is not possible. So I have to grind more or just keep it like this and travel. That's the situation.
I'd offer you my second bedroom, but I don't think the president will let you in my country.
No, they don't like us.
I was just going to say, I traveled to Switzerland. It was probably 10 years ago. And we get off the plane and we're hungry. And I go over to just some side of the road place or whatever. It was 20 Swiss francs or something like that to buy a meal. And I was just I'm going to pay $20 for a sandwich, And it was just, it kind of blew my mind. So I've experienced that firsthand, and the squeeze was real for sure.
Yeah. It's definitely not the optimal place to be a full-time streamer. At my size, at other sizes, sure. CGB could live here. All the people could live here and stream.
What?
But for me,
I couldn't live there.
Sure. I'm pretty sure you can. But for me, it's when I reach the minimum wage, around the minimum wage, I could see myself tuning down my job. I already tuned down my job a bit, but since I'm a contractor, right? Sometimes there's a lot of work suddenly, and then I have to do it. Like this week, for example. But yeah, I hope I get there. My plan is in the end of the year. Now, I never planned this in January, right? When I started, I was just do it. But then the last 2 months, I was realizing maybe there's something I could try. And yeah, I hope so.
There was an esports announcement about paths to MPL through challengers, pretty much everything running through arena. Very little is related to Mythic Ladder Standing, but a lot is related to events. Do you have any aspirations of making a go at things like MPL and that professional Magic life, as you are a competitive player?
I told myself I will do that when I manage to go to the point where I can just live from Magic, because then I can focus 100% on it. Because I mean, sure, I play on a competitive level, but then preparation for tournaments is another time, right? If I can just use the time where I spend for work for preparations for tournaments, I would actually try to do it. I was talking with Seth and Jason and other players, and they always say I should do it. I want you to do it, but I told them I just don't know when. Like, how should I find the time for that right now? I would have to let down my streaming a bit, but I know there are streamers, they prepare in streaming, like Canister is just streaming and then just go to a tournament. But I mean, I'm not even close to that level to be able to just do that. But if it's an arena, like over arena, I mean, maybe I can combine it. Then I could see myself actually doing it. But yeah, I mean, right now it's not possible. It's too much. Yeah.
The one thing I would say that you have a big advantage with is you have a network, something that many players don't have. I never had when I was competing. You have connections to some of the best players in the world. They can answer questions just like they ask questions of you. You can cash in some of those friendship chips every now and then. Like, you have good lists and good sideboard strategies and technology kind of in your, hanging out in your Discord when you need it. So if you can't commit that much time to putting in the reps yourself, those people can help you. And if all of these events are on Arena, you could stream it on delay, possibly grow an audience. So I think it's just something that your fans and your friends are really interested in. People often say this to me: I don't enjoy competing that way anymore, but I think you might still enjoy that. But
I would enjoy competing.
I'm just throwing in my support behind you doing some MPL stuff in the future. Get that money.
I like it. I always was competing my entire life, and there's a really funny story how I came into video games in general. I played football or soccer, in your case, for like 14 years, and I injured myself really bad. And I was like, I would say I was really good in soccer, like really good. And then I got injured really bad, and I couldn't play for an entire year. And then the doctors, and I couldn't walk, and all that stuff happened, right? But inside myself, I needed to do something, right? So I played StarCraft 2. That's like it's a competitive game back then. And I played that all day with my sticks. I couldn't walk. I was just sitting there playing until I reached the highest level, competing in big tournaments, DreamHack qualification, whatever. And that's where I found the way of competing again. And so I think you're right. I love competing just in general. It's just my nature. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I second that. I think that you've got what it takes, and I would love to see that. And I was just remembering that, this came up a little bit earlier, but definitely go check out the podcast that Danny co-hosts. Remind us the name. MTG Pro
Play.
MTG Pro Play. That's right. So I was getting it confused with the one that Paulo, Sam, and
Pro Points, yeah,
Pro Point, exactly.
I remember that.
So, which is a podcast that has been running for a while, but yeah, MTG Pro Play. Go check that out. Really excellent podcast, and just another way to interact with Danny and his content. Okay, why don't we transition to talking about some concrete Magic cards and strategies here. So Jumpstart just released on Arena and brought a metric ton of new cards to the historic format. And it's definitely, along with the recent bans and suspension in historic, it's really shaken up the format. And so this is like real time. A lot of people are iterating right now. I've played some historic. Danny's played some historic. Have you played any historic yet, CGB?
Not with the new cards.
Okay, yeah.
But I study deck lists. I'm a net decking nerd. I'm on my Twitter just looking for them.
none of us, and it's probably just safe to say no arena player right now is like an authority on the historic format. There's just too much going on. So we're all kind of learning it and have a chance to... It's an exciting time to look at new cards, build decks around them, try to adapt existing archetypes, look out for what have the potential to be new archetypes. So why don't we just go into some of what we're seeing and some of what is feeling like possible to do in Historic, some of what might be good. So I'll kick things off. One of the decks that seems to have just gotten insanely powered up with a number of different cards that have been printed recently is Goblins. Yeah, I was playing yesterday on stream and my Goblins opponent had a couple of Skirk Prospectors out. And I think there was like turn 4 or something like that. And, you know, they don't, it's just not a very impressive board, right? And then all of a sudden they drop Muxus and they just put like five more Goblins on the table and they're attacking me with a 10-10 haste. And I was like, okay, all right, like, welcome to Historic, people.
These are new cards. I need to read these cards.
I had no idea that was possible in Historic.
Yeah, so. This is this combo, right? Where if you play the 1-mana Goblin where you sacrifice a Goblin, you get a red source. Then you sacrifice enough so until you have 6 and you play that Goblin where you take the top 5 or how many cards?
I can read it.
Read us the card.
Okay, read it, yeah.
Muxus Goblin Grandee is 4 red for a legendary Goblin Noble. So 6 freaking mana. When it's a 4/4, and when Muxus Goblin Grandee enters the battlefield, reveal the top 6 cards of your library. I'm having Winota flashbacks already. Put all Goblin creature cards with converted mana cost 5 or less from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest on the bottom in a random order. Whenever Muxus attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each other Goblin you control. You get you get 6 cards. All of the Goblins that cost 5 or less. That's like all the Goblins.
Yep, all the Goblins.
The Siege Gang Commander costs 5. That, like, you can just... Here's my 3 Siege Gang Commanders from the top of my deck. Shuffler's fine. Oh my goodness.
There's actually one card that I think makes this card so powerful. I mean, this card on its own is a 6 mana for 4 Goblin. That's not like something you play in a Goblin deck usually, right? Turn 6 for an aggressive deck, nice high end, right? But the card that that lets you sacrifice a Goblin to get a mana just makes you able to. I mean, you don't care. You sacrifice your little Goblins there, right? Whatever. Then you play this turn 3 or turn 4, bring it in, and then you just attack because there's also another Goblin in the Jumpstart, and that's the one that enables this as an OTK, right? It's the 3 mana Goblin Chief Train, 2/2 haste. Other Goblin creatures you control get +1/+1 and have haste. So this is a Goblin Lord that gives haste, right? So if you hit one of the Chieftain in those Goblins, you win. It's done, right?
They all get +1/+1. They all have haste. They all attack. Oh god, it's Goblin.
So this is kind of the glue, the thing that makes this deck out. You see it a lot, and I think it's powerful.
So there's also Goblin Matron in Historic, which lets you tutor for a Goblin, right? It's 3 mana for a 1/1.
Yep.
Lets you search up a Goblin. There's the Snoop, the new M21 card, the 2/2 that lets you play Goblin spells from the top of your deck. Yep. I'm looking at a list online right now from Andrea Del Moro, and this has black splash for Call of the Death Dweller.
Yeah. Andrea, I think he wrote me. I'm not sure. Yeah, I talked about Andrea, and he used to have no call in first, and then he added it later, and it performed even better just to get some cards back, right?
A Goblin Chain Whirler with Death Touch or Fanatical Firebrand with Death Touch.
That is why
Goblin Chain Whirler kills it all. Fanatical Firebrand. I introduced Arjuna to Call the Death Dweller. Fanatical Firebrand in our historic face-off a month ago.
It was a fun beating, for sure. There's a lot, man. I mean, there's this... we also got Krenko Mob Boss. 2 red, 3/3. And it has the ability tap, create X 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, where X is the number of goblins you control. So,
oh my gosh,
that's
I give this card Krenko in a deck where I want to curve out an attack each turn. I think Krenko is weaker than the ones we just mentioned. Because it's a nice setup. It's a nice setup, right? But creature cards, I tell you this, creature cards in Standard right now that come into play and do nothing are usually not the cards you want for 4 mana in an aggressive deck.
right? But
Creature
with the
cards-
chieftain, it has haste though, and then you get to attack with everything the same day. Oh, so good.
But I think you know what I mean, right? And I think
Yeah.
on itself, I can see this as a one-off if you want to spice like a bit spice over your deck, and then it works and you're super happy. No problem. But just from power level perspective.
well.
does.
I'll tell you what. I was just playing my trusty mono green in Historic because I couldn't decide what I wanted to play. And I had no answer for the mob boss, and it came down and it made 4 2/2s because they had the Goblin Chieftain, right? And so that was pretty nasty, man. I gotta see.
I want to point out 46 minutes on this recording until a mono green was mentioned.
I know. I didn't make it a whole episode. It was a viewer request, by the way. Viewer request. But so Goblins just definitely looking like could be like a premier aggro archetype in Historic.
I think there's one world where when it's an early meta, right? And we saw decks that have claim and priests, and if those decks exist in Historic as well, with Citadel and all that kind of thing, creature decks just become weaker again, right? Maybe now in Historic, since it's faster, it's still possible. But this is what I'm looking forward to: how cards like Claim and those cards will be played in the format. If so, will creature deck be still playable or not? Because there's Goblins and Elves, for example, as well, right? So
That's a good transition to a Rakdos Citadel deck. This is the thing that Croaky's just started streaming with as soon as Jumpstart dropped. Almost a standard deck, except for 4 copies of Stitcher's Supplier and 2 copies of Phyrexian Tower. And it's there because Phyrexian Tower is a legendary land that you can tap to sacrifice a creature and add 2 black mana to your mana pool. With a turn 2 priest and a turn 3 Phyrexian Tower, you can play a Bolas's Citadel on turn 3 without green in your deck, without traditional ramp in your deck. What? What?
yeah, it's a big what, right?
What?
It's hard. I mean, it's a 6 mana win you the game spell, right? And if you play a win the game spell on turn 3, if that shapes the meta, every deck needs an answer to it, like a main board artifact hate, main board counter. I don't know. I really wonder how it's going to play out. But this deck used to be really strong before the Jumpstart cards, and now I think it just elevates to the next level with this land in general. I would say it's amazing.
Yeah. Phyrexian Tower is it's one of those cards which I think edges towards older formats and power level. I would say, any land that can just tap and add more than 1 mana to your mana pool is something you should really pay attention to.
I mean, you don't need a Citadel for this to be stupidly good. Who cares about your Gutter Bones, your Stitcher's Supplier, your Cauldron Familiar? Village Rites was already okay, but getting a burst of mana like that is better, right?
It's crazy.
And attached to a land that already just can make mana, it's insane.
Yeah, just so many applications. I mean, just as well as the fact that it's just another sack outlet in your deck, right? So it's if you didn't draw the oven or you don't have the village rights or whatever, this is just another, you can just claim and feed it to your land, right? So I mean, it's nice to have that option as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for these black-based sacrifice archetypes. Could be super, super strong in the meta. Why don't we talk about another tribe that got a big boost in Historic, which is Elves. We've had like a couple of pretty relevant Elves added to Historic, and could definitely be seeing some play, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I played it on my stream, and Crookie's played it on his stream, and then he sent me his list, and there are definitely two cards that stood out a lot to me. One is the Allosaurus Shepherd, the 1-mana 1/1, where Shepherd can't be countered, and green spells can also not be countered. And on top of that, you have this 6-mana you can spend to make every elf base power 5/5, which is really nice. Of course, it's expensive, but then you get the other card, the Elvish Archdruid, 3-mana 2/2, Lord effect. All the elves gets +1/+1, and you can tap it and add 1 forest for each elf you control. So sometimes you attack, tap this, and then you have 30 power, turn 3 or 4. It's a bit ridiculous.
30 power. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, sounds fair.
Might be decent.
My take on the Shepherd was that everybody who showed it to me on Allosaurus Shepherd was really excited about the first line of text, which is it can't be countered, and green spells you control can't be countered. People seemed very high on that, as many players often are when they've been traumatized by my evil Teferi decks too often. But when I looked at the card, I was like, if I wouldn't even play this card anywhere if it weren't for the last line of text. So if this deck has access to that free mana, like huge free mana, then suddenly just turning your team into a mega team of dinosaurs and winning the game, that to me is where the Shepherd shines. So I'm curious how many you and Crokies are trying, because I wouldn't play 4. It seems like a 2 or a 3, because to me, I only want the last ability. What do you think?
I mean, you really want the card since you don't have card draw in the deck itself. So on the 3, I could not see this. I can see 3 because you really just want it for the ability. But when you miss that card, you wish you had it. So
you're not playing Beast Whisperer, Vanquisher's Banner, like any of those like card draw, card advantage.
I mean,
okay,
there's Hench in the side, but no card draw. It's just a really beat down deck where you curve out and finish off, right? So I think then you need 4. But I could see if you have like a more mid-rangey elf deck, right, where you have also some card draw, I could see less. But in an aggro deck, I think you want 4.
All right, cool. Thank you.
One of the cool play patterns you can see in this deck is there's just like actually a lot of, playable 1-drops, right? Like you have the Allosaurus Shepherd, you have your Llanowar Elves. Pellet Collector is an elf, right?
Yeah,
I think it is. So you could theoretically have like a green aggro deck that runs like 12 1-drops and run one of these, Lord. What's the Lord Elf that buffs all the elves?
There are 2, right? I mean, the new one is a 3-mana elf.
There's 3.
Yeah, that's 3. Yeah, that's 1 more. But I think in the deck I used to play, there were only 2. The 2-mana and the 3-mana.
Yep. 2 mana is Clan Caller, right?
Clan Caller,
Clan Caller. And 3 mana is it's
Elvish.
A weird name, Imperious Perfect. Is that right? Okay.
I think something like this. Yeah, I need to check it myself. But the new 3-mana Elvish Archdruid, it's just, this card is completely nuts. Like with so many 1-drops. If I remember when I play Llanowar Elf, turn 2 I play Archdruid. I have 2 elves in the play. Then I have like so many elves in my hand. I was like, okay, I play an elf. Tap Archery, get 5 more mana, 4 more mana. I play my hand. You go. Turn 3, I have no hand anymore, and everything is on board. And then attack, win. So it's similar like Goblin. You can actually turn 4. You have so much damage. It's really, really hard. So.
Wow. Yeah, we're also forgetting about Llanowar Elves, and I think they printed a good 2-drop in Dwynen's Elite that makes it's basically 2 elves for 2 mana. Okay.
Yeah, also good in this deck, yeah.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for something like that. Now, this brings me to another card which has been good in other formats. I don't know if it's going to be good in Historic, but what do you guys think about Craterhoof Behemoth as a top end for some of these green decks?
There's one in sideboard for Elf, by the way, to fetch with Vivi.
There you go.
It's cool. The one deck I built on my stream was built around Craterhoof Behemoth. And I mean, when I saw this card, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play Luca. I'm gonna play Luca, and I'm gonna make some tokens, and then I just win turn 4, no problem, with the Transmogrify. And it happened actually a lot. You have 8 cards to fetch this card, right? And it's way better than the, what is the Forerunner? Forerunner?
Endray's Forerunners. Yeah, the Pain Bacon.
This one is just way better. Like, the power of the creatures is insane. If you get just like 4 tokens out and then you play this, it's absolutely crazy.
I'm just going to read this card for some of our players who haven't had the joy of losing to Craterhoof before. So it costs the same as the Pain Bacon. 5 green, 5/5 creature beast with haste, and when it ETBs, creatures you control gain trample and get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So the Endray's Forerunners just gives a flat buff. It's what, like +2/+2 or something like that. But Craterhoof is like there's no ceiling on how big your creatures can get, and the Craterhoof adds to your creature count as well, right? So if you have 3 measly creatures in play and you play Craterhoof, all of your creatures get +4/+4, and that's including the Behemoth as well. So it's savage. I mean, it's just a totally savage card.
When I was watching competitive Magic at the time when this was in Standard. I wasn't actively taking part, but you always knew when somebody got out the pen and paper and started doing math. You always knew what was coming. Because you have to do the math, take the trample, add their life total to the toughness of their creatures, and figure out if they're dead. The answer is usually yes. They're usually dead. This Elves deck sounds very similar to the Goblin deck in that we have access to a tribe, a ton of mana, a decent amount of early plays and mana generation. We smash our hand onto the field, and we have a crazy board state very quickly. Who wins?
Good question. It's a good coin flip. Is definitely something.
Person on the play.
There's a lot of decision in a match like this.
Elves has the Craterhoof for over the top if they run that version, and Goblins has the Call the Death Dweller Chain Whirler combo.
Yeah. I mean, if you come with the call, if you have the Chain Whirler combo, then definitely Gobo wins. But Elves tend to be bigger because you play more Lords, and I think you play them faster as well because you have mana acceleration. Where in Goblin you don't have that too much. You have like 1 card that gives you mana, but everything's cheap, right? But in Elves you have like this huge amount of mana you can use. But I think since we have a red deck there, a red deck is a good way to sideboard against creature decks in general. And so in a best of 3, I will give Gobos the edge. That's how I feel. I played against Gobos with Elves a lot, and if you have cards like Hench in the sideboard and you want to go like this, okay, let's play creatures, and you go, and just keep this going, right? Then I think with Hench and some tuning, you maybe can do it, but you need to get there, and that's the hard part.
The Call the Death Dweller Chain Whirler thing feels like cheating. just saying, Goblins, what are you doing, Goblins? You weren't supposed to be doing that. That ain't right.
All right, so there's a couple of other cards that just stood out to me looking at these. One of them is Languish coming to Historic. Now, Languish, definitely a very playable sweeper in Standard when it was there. I don't know, do you guys think Languish has a place in the format, or is it not quite like the Damnation that we were hoping it might be?
Well, I think it deals with all the creatures you want to deal with. -4/-4 is pretty huge. The other option would be, what's the name? Ritual of Suit. 4 mana, destroy all creature of 3 CMC and lower. Mm-hmm. I think Language is better. It plays around the indestructible clause as well. Not sure how important those indestructible creatures are right now. I like Language. It was played against me when I tried the Elf deck. It felt painful. Really painful. And I think sweepers definitely have a spot because there are many tribal decks. So I think it's definitely playable. Also, there's one deck that if you play right now historic, I think every second deck will play Field of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always nice to have like one or two of them in your deck. So I think this is definitely playable right now.
Yeah, it stood out to me as one of those cards which can just be like a policeman of the format, right? It can police the format, and a card that you might have to start being aware of and maybe playing around. Because I think people are used to like, they're used to playing around Ritual. We're getting used to playing around Extinction Event, but Languish is like can by far be the most powerful out of those three, especially depending on the matchup. So yeah, I would just definitely keep an eye out. Like if you're playing against any black deck, especially any more kind of controlling black deck, they can definitely whip that one out of nowhere.
I think that Languish gives the Field of the Dead decks an opportunity to get away from Bant if they want to. I'm not saying they want to, but I think that they were pretty much stuck in Shatter the Sky to Fairy Time Raveler land. And there have been some Sultai like Yarok field decks lurking, but they were always significantly worse at buying time. And Yarok and Languish are friends. Like they don't mind each other.
They're good friends, yeah.
Yeah, Golos too, if people are playing that. Okay, another card which is kind of, I think, deserves some conversation, which is going to get played in these field decks, is Explore. So what do you guys think about, we just last episode, we had a discussion on the growth spiral tip and how strong growth spiral is. So what do you guys think about Explore entering the format and what that enables?
Well, I mean, Growth Spiral is probably the best card in Standard right now, right? So let's have two of them in Historic, I think.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun.
Oh man, I don't know about you. When I actually found out that Explorer was coming to Historic, I think I had my iPad. I think I just set it down and I stared out the window. I just gazed into a very gray, very sad day, and was like, "Yep, I guess Historic is going to be like this forever and ever."
Yeah.
It's the idea that you can sweep on turn 3 pretty consistently from a deck that wants it. So any of these aggro decks, they can kind of print whatever they want for them, because if you can go first and sweep them on turn 3, it doesn't matter what they do. Sometimes going second, sweeping on turn 3 is enough too. But like, I'm looking at a Bant list from Andrea Mengucci on my screen. And do you remember when we had to run kind of clunky cards like Circuitous Route to get up to 7 mana for our fetch a few gates? Remember fetching a few gates? Yeah. Like it's weird because Explore and Growth Spiral ramp you from 2 to 4, and you really want to get to 5 for Golos. That's what this deck maxes at, is 5 mana. And the thing that you forget is, oh, that's right, I can just Growth Spiral into like Explore Uro, and I'm at 7. I just need 2 of these. I can run like all land, Growth Spiral, Uro, Explore, Elvish Rejuvenator. And if I draw 2 of them, I'm like just there. It's insane.
It's crazy. Yeah. I wonder how Ram's deck going to be. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, well, I was just wondering, like, I wonder if having cards like Explore and Cultivate in the Historic format opens up the possibility for non-Simic ramp strategies. I don't know. I'm curious if you guys think that, like, we just have too many incentives to be in Simic to not be in Simic if we're going to ramp. But do you think that we could see, like, I don't know, like some random, like, Naya ramp deck or some, like, mono green ramp deck? Is that a thing?
I think as long as Ura exists, I don't think you want to change that at all.
Probably not.
Both cards give you a card in the graveyard and ramp you, and it's just, as long as Ura exists, you play definitely in a Simic color, I think. I mean, you can play something like ramp into Citadel, but as we just saw, there are better ways to do that anyways in the archetype itself. So, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. So probably not, outside of some very focused strategy.
I think that would be an interesting enabler if they hadn't made Simic so busted. Like I think the idea of a non-Simic ramp deck actually does open some like space for people to build around like green black rock strategies. Except they busted Simic. That's just the way it is. And yeah, like Danny said, until Uro is, for some reason, if they ever take it away from us, why would you play another color with green? I guess you just play mono green or Simic.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any other cards in like the first pass of the format that are really standing out to you guys as potential players or cards that could shape the format?
I saw cards that, like, I saw the Young Pyromancer, for example, and I was building a burn deck with it. It felt pretty good, not gonna lie. Young Pyromancer is the 2-mana 2/1. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you create a 1/1 elemental. And this used to be played in Pioneer in Phoenix decks. So I also tried Phoenix since there's also Lava X, the 1-mana, 5 damage. You can discard a card. So I thought like maybe there's a possibility to Phoenix, but I think there's so much graveyard hate. That's just every deck has a graveyard hate in because there's Uro and Cats, right? So Phoenix feels super awkward to play in that meta because the other decks tend to be stronger as well. But yeah, Pyromancer and Lava X from the common uncom slot, I was kind of hyped, but not sure anymore.
The Pyromancer thing makes me think that we have to learn the lesson of Hero of Precinct 1 like we do with every new set, where it's like, that was a good card and it was a good deck once, back when making free 1/1s mattered. Now they're just free 1/1s. They don't do much.
The power level of some cards are just insane, and I mean most of the cards involve some Eldraine cards, but Uro is also just one print of Theros that's just it's so powerful that's
an Eldraine card that they forgot, right? That's
what
happened.
They forgot.
They were like, "Oh, we were going to put that in Eldraine because Simic wasn't good enough." So Oko needs some help. We want to make sure Oko gets play. And they just kind of left it off and were like, I guess Theros, I guess.
Definitely. I just think the power level got a bit crazy. And M21 felt, for example, a bit less powerful than, let's say, Eldraine, for example. So I'm glad. I hope they tune it a bit down, just a little bit. And in Historic now we have all those cards, so we can just, if we want to be a super Archmage type of player, we just go Historic, right? And just do powerful things, and I like it for this. And
I get the impression with this particular set, Jumpstart, that they really are trying to edge the power level of Historic towards Pioneer. And there are even some cards that are like kind of modern power level, I think, or have the potential to be. So yeah, I definitely think that Historic, like speaking of Croakies, I just saw a tweet that he made, maybe even today, saying Field of the Dead's too slow for Historic. And so we might actually start seeing Historic turn into like a, turn 4 or even turn 3 kill format pretty consistently. So it's just something to kind of keep an eye on and think about. It's really like it's really been ratcheted up, man. I feel like the average power level of this format was just like cranked overnight.
Oh boy, unban Oko and we've got a format.
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right about this. As you just said, Elves and Goblins have the potential to win turn 4.
Yeah,
it's so.
Yeah, and it's not like an Embercleave win either. It's like things have to line up pretty perfectly for you to win with that card on turn 4, but like these decks can pretty consistently put together a good win. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on it, and I think you have to be ready for that. Like if you're deck building in Historic at the moment, you've got to have answers to all that stuff. Otherwise, you're just going to get buried. Just another thing that jumped out to me. I don't know that I've been impressed with this tribe, but I played against some Spirit decks on the ladder. And they got a big pickup in Rattle Chains, but I haven't been impressed with the deck so far. Do you guys have any thoughts about that?
I did play it, and it cost me around 6% of rank when I tried to make this work.
Okay.
It just has no chance against goblins and elves. Like,
Yeah.
you can attack a little bit, you have some damage. You have 8 lords, like 8 cards in lord cards, which is nice. But when you have like these little flyers that cost a bit more and the power is a bit trimmed because they fly, and they just play milling creatures or like anything, it just feels way weaker. I think it's, compared to elf and goblin, definitely the weaker one.
Counter spells need to be good. Like, that's the only way you play spirits, is counter spells actually need to be good. And if you're countering a bunch of 1 and 2 mana creatures that are redundant with all the other 1 and 2 mana creatures in a deck, then they're terrible. So if you're countering a Golos, then might be all right.
Yeah. When I played against it on the ladder, it felt overall to me weaker than just the mono blue tempo deck. That felt like a deck that could just have a bigger control over the game. Because, it didn't feel like it could race. Like, I didn't feel like the Spirits deck could race.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think mono blue definitely has more play, especially with the new cards that is also in Jumpstart. Curiosity.
Yes.
It's basically like
got another
curious obsession. Just, it's like you have 8 Curious Obsession now, because why not?
That's another thank you very much, Wizards, right there.
Yeah, and when you play against it, they always have it. I never saw it. I mean, I played against it 2 times, and they always have 1 or not 2. So
yeah, they also picked up Lofty Denial, which I think is pretty strong add to the deck. Let's wrap it up there. There's a lot of speculation we could make, but I think just keep an eye on the format, keep an eye on those archetypes, and I'm excited. I'm excited to play Historic. It's probably going to be my focus for the next couple of weeks, maybe even couple of months.
Yeah, I'm excited to get rampaged on turn 4 or be the rampagee. Like, let's do this.
CGB, you're going to have to figure out where your typical evil blue counter mage identity fits into the Historic format for sure.
I'm also working on my control. I try to identify all the aggro decks and try to build the best control deck, and I have 2 sketches now that I think could be there. But
is it turn 3 Languish or turn 3 Shatter the Sky?
Right now it's turn 3. The other cards, not Languish.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
All right. Well, so we'll keep an eye on that moving forward. Thank you so much, Danny, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting Magic with you. And so where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on twitch.tv/DanyTLaw. You can also find me on Twitter, DanyTLaw G, I think. And on YouTube now, DanyTLaw Gaming. It's my newest project there. And yeah, I mean, those 3 are definitely my most common channels out there. And thanks for being here. Excellent.
All right. And you can find ArenaCraft by searching ArenaCraft Podcast. We're on Twitch, we're on Twitter, YouTube. That channel is growing. You can find us on all of your favorite podcatchers. You can also find Covert Go Blue on his YouTube channel. Just search Covert Go Blue. Also, CGB Gaming is another channel, which I just learned about today. So go check out his second channel there. He also streams live on Twitch Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. And that's going to do it for this show. And we look forward to catching up with you all next week.
Later.
Later.